The film starts with Kevin and his team cleaning up a blood spatter after a gruesome murder-suicide in Claudia and Robert's house. Kevin is married to Natalie, a fashion designer. The two have been struggling to repair their marriage ever since Natalie's affair with a co-worker. Their marriage counselor suggests that a change of environment could help them recuperate. Kevin tells Natalie that they could buy Claudia and Robert's house at a low cost. So they finalize the deal and move in soon after. But mysterious things start happening in the house on the very first night. When their dog Odie starts whimpering, Kevin takes him out to pee, not realizing that the thermostat setting is somehow rapidly dropping. Natalie is freaked out when Kevin walks back in through the bedroom door because she heard someone using the bathroom. Kevin checks the bathroom, but there's no one in there. Strange things continue to happen the next morning. Kevin finds a dirty magazine addressed to him in the mailbox, even though he'd never ordered it. Natalie notices a stalker gawking at their house from a truck across the street. That night, the room temperature suddenly drops again. Natalie wakes up to check the thermostat. It's at 31. She resets it to 70 and gets a glass of water when a melancholic song starts playing on a record player. Scared, she checks the closet and shuts it. But moments later, the closet door suddenly springs open. She nervously closes it back and returns to bed, dismissing what she saw as a nightmare. The next morning, Natalie comes out of the shower to find a sweet message written across the fogged-up bathroom mirror. When she thanks Kevin for the note, he's confused because he didn't write it. Meanwhile, a package full of pornographic magazines arrives for Kevin, who is once again left perplexed. At night, when Natalie is alone, she hears someone walking up the stairs. To her horror, a thin, pale hand suddenly crawls up on the floor. Terrified, she turns on the light, but there's no one there. She musters the courage to walk up to the bedroom door, but she's scared out of her wits when someone covers her mouth and drags her away. Back in the counselor's office, Kevin shrugs off Natalie's story as a paranoid hallucination prompted by her stress. That night, Natalie and Kevin are supposed to have dinner with Natalie's sister, Danny, and her mother. Danny arrives at the new house with food and finds a note from Natalie asking her to feed Odie. She's upstairs when Odie starts wincing. She comes down to look for him, but is surprised to find the kitchen faucet running. Having found Odie, she's about to go upstairs when the faucet starts running again. As she closes it for the second time, a thud startles her, and the power goes off. Out of sheer terror, she dashes up the stairs and shuts the bedroom door. An intruder follows her and tries to open the locked door, forcing her to hide in the closet. Her cell phone, which she was unable to find earlier, starts to ring behind her. As she turns around to get it, someone drags her into the darkness. When Natalie and Kevin get back to their place and find no sign of Danny, they think that she never showed up to avoid seeing her mother. Over dinner, Natalie and her mother get into a massive argument, which is interrupted by the noise of glass shattering in their front yard. They rush outside to find that someone had lit their car on fire. Bothered by all the strange incidents, Natalie goes to meet Claudia to find out what had really happened at the house. Apparently, the house belonged to Claudia's older brother, Jay, who used to live there with his wife, Erin. Jay was unfaithful to Erin, and she decided to get back at him by having an affair with a mystery man. Claudia's husband, Robert, has been eavesdropping on her conversation with Natalie. He offers to buy the house back, but Natalie refuses. Meanwhile, Kevin is in the park with Odie when the dog starts to behave strangely. Kevin takes him to the vet, who reveals that he has a lethal amount of a toxin in his bloodstream which made him sick. To spare him the suffering, Natalie and Kevin have to put him down. That night, Natalie is startled awake by a scratching sound. Suddenly, the doorknob starts to rattle, and she wakes up Kevin. They rush downstairs in horror, but don't see anyone around. The next night, Natalie is left speechless in fear when she finds that someone had used her phone to take pictures of her and Kevin while they were asleep. Right at this moment, the record player starts playing. Natalie looks around her office, and from behind a mannequin emerges a pale, creepy figure. The figure rushes towards her as she tries to run upstairs. She locks the door, but the intruder is inside the room. She manages to get to the balcony and is about to jump into the swimming pool below when the intruder pushes her. The police arrive, but don't find anyone in their search. Kevin also doesn't believe Natalie's account of what happened. To top that, the CCTV footage from that night shows no sign of an intruder. As Kevin and Natalie leave another counseling session, Kevin suddenly feels sick. The doctor finds a lethal poisoning agent in his bloodstream. The detective now thinks that Natalie has been trying to kill her husband. That night, when Natalie is alone in the house, a stranger shows up and tries to assault her. Luckily, she manages to protect herself by stabbing him with a pair of scissors. In a shocking turn of events, the police discover that Robert had been involved in the assault, as well as several other strange things that had been happening at the house, like the vandalism and the unwanted magazine subscriptions. He was also responsible for the deaths of Claudia's brother and sister-in-law because he wanted to sell the house to settle his massive debt. In the aftermath of these revelations, Kevin apologizes to Natalie for not believing her. But Natalie thinks that they should separate, since he would never be able to trust her completely. Meanwhile, Natalie has set up her own camera in the bedroom to record any strange happenings for evidence. The next morning, Kevin gets a text from Natalie asking him not to come back home that night. So, when Natalie calls him later on that night, he doesn't answer the phone. She apologizes to him over voicemail, and he finally calls her back, mentioning how she had texted him not to come home. Natalie is shocked to hear this because she didn't send that text. She checks the bedroom camera for any clues. What she sees makes her gasp in horror. A pale, thin man had crawled out from under the bed and used her phone that morning. While she's trying to make sense of this terrifying footage, the closet door opens up behind her and someone creeps out and attacks her. Natalie finds herself chained up in a small room filled with photos and camera monitors. Her captor walks in and is about to inject her with toxin when she starts to express her sympathy towards him. She realizes that Aaron had brought this mystery man here to have an affair, and he had fallen in love with her. But Aaron had chosen to be with her husband in the end, leaving the man vengeful. When Kevin comes home and starts looking for Natalie, the man stuffs a cloth in Natalie's mouth and leaves through a hidden passageway to kill him. Upstairs, Kevin thinks that Natalie is asleep on the bed, but soon discovers that it isn't Natalie, but a dead Danny. The mystery man creeps up behind him, and the two get into a scuffle. Meanwhile, Natalie manages to escape from her shackles and hides behind a mannequin in her office. The man, who is now downstairs, attacks her. Luckily, Kevin jabs the toxic injection into him, after which Natalie stabs him with a pair of scissors, thus ending their ordeal. A month later, Kevin and Natalie move out of the house that traumatized them for months, flipping it off as they shut the door one last time. But even as all seems to be fine, the closet door in the abandoned house eerily closes on its own, suggesting a supernatural element to the incidents that happened throughout the film. Interestingly enough, Aftermath is actually inspired by the experiences of a real-life couple from California, Jerry Rice and Janice Reuter. When they bought their dream home in 2011, Jerry and Janice experienced some of the terrifying incidents that happened in the film. though the real-life version of events did not end as crazily as the real version did.